Voyage.
I'm Akshay. Join me on the journey to the razor's edge to discover what it really means to be human. Fear Vana. I was born in Mumbai, India, and didn't see snow in person until I was 14. When I was serving as a US Marine in Iraq, I dreamed of escaping to a place as far away as possible, Antarctica. From the back of a 7-ton truck rambling across Haditha, I set my sights on the goal of trekking to the South Pole. Last year, I finally got my chance. It was one of the most rewarding things I've ever done, but I left parts of my body there, and my soul. On December 14, 1911, Norwegian explorer Roald Amundsen led a team of 5 to become the first human beings to reach the South Pole. The route he took through the Transantarctic Mountains onto the polar plateau was up a glacier called the Axel Heiberg. Since Amundsen, only about 50 people have even set foot on the Axel Heiberg. Many others have reached the South Pole through varying different routes across the Antarctic continent, but very few have set foot on that challenging and remote glacier in Antarctica. I wanted to follow in Amundsen's footsteps, skiing from the base of the Ross Ice Shelf up the Axel Heiberg Glacier onto the polar plateau and to the South Pole. The climb goes from sea level to 9,301 feet. I've been at much higher elevation before, but it wasn't the elevation that provided the challenges.
The first thing most people ask is, why would I do something like this? 7 reasons come to mind. 1. Training. This trip is a chance for me to test out systems in preparation of what's coming next. The warm-up for something bigger. More on this a bit later. 2. Transcendence. I will suffer, that's inevitable, but I don't go out there to seek suffering as an end. I seek what it gives me. The opportunity to find something within myself to transcend it. 3. Aliveness. These kinds of experiences bring life to the surface in a way that nothing else does. 4. Exploration. Not of the outside world, but the inside one. Antarctica has already been mapped. I'm not exploring uncharted territory. I'm going to see what will be revealed within myself. 5. Oneness. Nature is the perfect playground to experience it. 6. God. We all have our own version of what that means. I know I will experience the divine out there. 7. The human soul. To paraphrase Carl Jung, the insights that pull back the curtain on the human condition can't be found in books. Only by living and doing. In this case, living and doing on the edge of life and death. Notice how reaching the South Pole is nowhere on this list. As they say, the journey is the true destination.
To prepare for this trip, I did a lot of running, strength training, hiking, and tire dragging. That's when I tied 2 absurdly heavy truck tires to a harness and move forward very, very slowly. As you might imagine, this is quite a funny sight, so I get stopped by a lot of people asking me what I'm doing. It's a little out there, but it is the most applicable training for polar exploration because those tires simulate the feeling of pulling the sled. Now you might be imagining a team of dogs and me yelling mush mush, but there are no dogs. I am the dog. These days, many polar travelers pull their own sleds behind them as they move forward on skis.
Training for polar exploration is unique in that you need endurance and strength, and you need to do this all while you're fat. None of those three qualities complement together, which makes this a really strange thing to train for. I'm eating a ton of calories so I can hold on to the fat while building my endurance. I noticed my runs getting slower as I put on weight.
Time came for me to set out to Antarctica. I started from Phoenix and flew to Santiago, Chile. The next day, I flew to Punta Arenas, one of the southernmost cities in the world. We waited in Punta for about 9 to 10 days. Most of that was waiting for a good weather window in Antarctica. We, being me and the rest of my expedition team. Our guide, which for our purposes I'll refer to as the Norwegian, a woman from the UK with experience skiing to the South Pole, and my tent mate, a wonderful dude from Lithuania. We flew from Punta Arenas to Antarctica on November 21st. It took 4 hours before we landed on Union Glacier.
The reality hit me. I'm in Antarctica. I'm home. It's a privilege to set foot on this land, or permafrost. With a small satellite device, a little larger than a normal cell phone, I could get a signal pretty much anywhere, even here, at the bottom of the world. Mom!
Akshay, at the end of your trip, your father and I want to meet you. What kind of hotels are there?
I don't think you quite get it. Union Glacier Camp is a private camp on the western side of Antarctica that acts as a logistics hub for both private expeditions and national science programs. There's a natural blue ice runway where large planes can safely land with the supplies that keep the camp running. The camp can accommodate up to 70 guests between November to January. The rest of the year is too rough for flights to come in and out of the continent. Picture a few long tubular tents, a dozen shacks, and a grid of 35 two-person clam tents in the snow. It's not much, but somehow they have everything you need. Operations offices, communications, medical services, mech land, that's where all of the vehicles are maintained. Snowmobiles, snowcats, four-wheel drive vehicles, anything that rolls on snow. They all run on jet fuel, but the entire camp itself is solar-powered. There's a meeting room, a library, even a little weight room. Outside, people play basketball on the snow, volleyball, even yoga. There's a field guide hut where you can get the equipment you'll need for an expedition, like the sleds, stoves, fuel, tent, and of course, the food. There's even a gift shop, but it was shut down because of COVID-19 precautions. There's toilets, of course, where they separate out solid from liquid waste and fly all of it off the continent. You can get a hot shower, believe it or not. We use snow, which gets melted in a bucket. Then a hose feeds the hot water up to the shower head. My favorite place in the camp is the commissary, with fresh produce flown in daily and cooked by legit chefs. The food is surprisingly gourmet. But more than anything, I appreciate the company. It's like a little family out there with people from all over the world. We leave our electronics at the charging ports in the cafeteria and no one ever had to worry. It's a beautiful vibe.
Right away, we began packing our food bags, getting our sleds ready, and organizing everything we needed for 38 days out in the field. Sleeping in our tents, we experienced some very intense winds. Antarctica was already showing us her power, and it was awe-inspiring to bear witness to it.
We still have a couple of days' worth of prep work to do. Then we just have to wait for another clear weather window to fly to the other end of Antarctica for the start of our climb up the Axel Heiberg Glacier. Tomorrow we get back to preparing our rations, sleds, tents, stoves, and anything else we need for the expedition. While waiting to fly out, I spend time in Union Glacier's small library, the size of someone's garage, and read books on polar exploration. The best polar explorer for a quote was Ernest Shackleton. We had seen God in his splendors, heard the text that nature renders. We had reached the naked soul of man. Shackleton could turn a phrase in service of splendor, but when it came to advertising copy, he was more direct. His recruitment poster for the Endurance read, "Men wanted for hazardous journey, small wages, bitter cold, long months of complete darkness, constant danger, safe return doubtful. Honor and recognition in case of success." It took a couple of days to pack our food. 38 days worth of chocolate, dried fruit, butter, cheese, and protein bars cut into bite-sized chunks so they won't freeze solid. 18 days worth of it will be packed into sleds and go up the glacier with us. The remaining 20 days worth will be placed in a gear cache for us to pick up once we reach the polar plateau. We organize everything so it's easy to find in our sled. You do not want to be digging around when conditions get bad. In a way, it's two separate trips. The first part up the glacier will be a steep climb in soft snow, but not much wind and nice weather. The second part will be relatively flat terrain and harder snow, which is easy to ski on, especially with the sled. But it will be a monotonous grind through empty, white nothingness. In much colder and windier conditions, each part of the journey will be challenging and beautiful in its own way. In another day or two, we'll be all ready. But we were told we're not going to be able to fly out for at least another 3 to 4 days. The problem is, since we're flying to such a remote part of Antarctica, we need good weather conditions in 5 different spots in order for the plane to fly. First, we'll take off from Union Glacier, then fly a few hundred miles over ice and snow. We'll land at the first fueling stop, then take off again. Fly another few hundred miles over gorgeous but desolate landscape, then land at the second fueling stop, if you thought the first one was in the middle of nowhere. From there we take off yet again, go another 200 or 300 miles and land at the drop-off point on the Ross Ice Shelf. From there, the pilots take the second half of our food supply we'd spent so long prepping and cache it at the top of the glacier. All in, it's about an 8-hour journey from here to our drop-off point. The team is ready, but we need some stars to align weather-wise to get the all clear. While we wait, I go for a 10-kilometer run around Union Glacier. The next day I do it on skis, hauling a fully loaded sled. The only person on the trail, completely alone in the endless white expanse. I experienced a magnificent solitude. Over some surprisingly delicious poached salmon and roasted potatoes, I told my Norwegian guide that this trip is a training run for my larger goal. I'm planning on taking that on in a year.
You're going to the South Pole. What else is on your bucket list?
A solo crossing of Antarctica.
By wind or dog?
Neither. He chuckled for a moment, and then he looked into my eyes and saw I was dead serious.
It is the last great polar journey that can be made. The most striking of all journeys. The last great adventure in the history of polar exploration.
I see you know your Shackleton, too.
So, you're going to do a 2,500 kilometer human-powered solo trek on skis.
2,750 kilometers. 1,700 miles.
It's impossible. Or damn near it.
Exactly.
Where?
Starting from the Bay of Whales to the pole, ending at Berkner Island.
How many days?
I originally thought 105, but now that we've provisioned for this trip, I'm thinking it's 110 days.
Sled weight.
400 pounds.
It's never been done.
That's the appeal.
Well, let's see how you do.
He means this shorter trip to the pole with 3 teammates, but it's clear my new friend doubts I can do the crossing next year. I want to prove him wrong. It will be a long, slow slog, but I was made for that, and it served me well in the Marines. Sometimes I have doubts. People like Mike Horn or Rune Gjeldnæs or Borge Ausland haven't done it. How could I? But most of the time, I feel that Antarctica is waiting for me.
We're all getting very nervous with excitement and fear. Albert Camus once said, "Always go too far, because that is where you find the truth." That, in a nutshell, is what Fearvana is all about. It's what happens when you move through fear. I'm feeling it for sure, because it's about to get very real. We just got our evening weather report, and we are looking good for flying out, possibly the next day. I cannot wait to begin the adventure. I've gotten comfortable at Union Glacier, and I want to get out there into the field. I've built a routine and have settled into a pattern here very fast. Union Glacier has become home, but in 2 days I'll have a brand new home. A tent that'll move with me across the vast, frozen landscape. Things are going to get a lot tougher, but I know I'll adapt quickly. This is what I was made for. And my life tracker will finally get a bit more exciting as well. We take a Twin Otter plane from Union Glacier to our starting point on the base of the Ross Ice Shelf on the southwest side of the continent. It's a breathtaking 8-hour flight. The little plane makes 2 fuel stops out in the middle of nowhere in Antarctica during the 700-mile journey. The Ross Ice Shelf is a massive piece of ice, almost the size of Texas, at least for now. Only 54 people have set foot on the Axel Heiberg Glacier, and we are about to become 4 of only 26 human beings on Earth to ski up it.
On the first day, we take a detour to go see Amundsen's cairn, an 8-foot-tall pile of rocks which Amundsen left after being the first man to reach the South Pole over 110 years ago. The rocks are a marker for the tin can inside of it. The can holds a note from Amundsen, telling people what happened in case he died before reaching his ship. Thankfully, he didn't, and could tell the world his story. Being so close to the cairn, we have to check it out. We leave our sleds and ski 9 hours to get there and back. Most of it with no food and water, so it's a challenge. We have to hunt for it. There it is, a pile of rocks, but so much more. A testament to the human spirit. It's an honor to stand with my teammates where Roald Amundsen once walked. It feels as if he's personally blessing our journey. It's been a hard detour, but a worthy one, to commemorate and honor a legend, and experience a part of polar history.
We spend 14 days getting from the Ross Ice Shelf up the Axel Heiberg Glacier onto the polar plateau. Going up the glacier involves climbing up steep terrain in soft snow. For a few of the steepest sections, we double-hauled our gear, meaning we stashed half our gear, skied up, came back down, and brought up the second half. We complete our climb on December 14th, exactly 110 years to the day that Amundsen first reached the South Pole. As soon as we get onto the polar plateau, we get hammered by brutal 40-knot winds. I get windburn on the left side of my face because I left a small gap between my mask and my goggles. I was dressed for the glacier where conditions were very different, not for the plateau. When I changed my gear, I didn't do a good enough job. That was on me. But I fixed that mistake the very next day. However, the damage had already been done. Antarctica left its mark on my face. That's the sound of the actual Antarctic winds. They sped up to 60 knots the next day while we were in our tent. It's brutal. A polar storm is one of the most savage and unforgiving environments a human being can endure. Sitting in my tent, waiting for the whiteout to die down, I pull out my Iridium sat phone and text people back home. A lot different than Amundsen and his men, who were out of communication for almost 2 years while on their expedition. I think about how we have down sleeping bags, down jackets, and all kinds of gear to help us face the elements. Amundsen and his team had sealskin coats and mukluks. This doesn't make Antarctica any easier to face today. It just allows us to push the line in a way that he could not. He had dogs pulling their sleds, we're pulling ours because we have the technology and the ability and the resources to do so in a way that he could not. Antarctica will always be unforgiving to any explorer and adventurer who chooses to set foot in her realm, and I could not be more honored and humbled to play in this arena, following in the footsteps of the likes of Amundsen.
The most dangerous aspect of climbing a glacier? It isn't the elements. It's falling into a crevasse. Deep chasms in the rocks, covered by snowdrifts so you can't see them. My ski breaks through the snow, and there's nothing but air beneath it. I can see a dark hole, a space between the rocks that goes down and down. A few more inches to the left, I'm probably still falling. Guys, you might not want to come over here. I should be more scared. Fear makes you careful. I need to be more careful. Later that day, during a break between shifts, one of my team members looked spent. Hey, I'd be happy to take some weight off your sled. He looks at me sideways. He was 8 inches taller and had about 80 pounds on me. But exhaustion overrides pride, and he handed me his sleeping system, about 15 kilos, which I added to my sled. I feel the difference in weight, but I welcome the challenge. I call it getting in the cage. Buddha once said, we're all stabbed by the 2 darts of suffering. The first dart is the one beyond our control. The second dart is how you react to it. As I start pulling this now heavier sled, engaged in this physical battle with the glacier, I thought, this is a perfect moment. That's what I'm here for. A challenge.
Frostbite happens when our skin and underlying tissues are exposed to extreme cold. Every polar traveler has to consider the possibility of getting frostbite, but prays not to get it. While we were out on expedition, it was hour 7 of day 17. We had just stopped for a quick break to drink some water. My hands were in my mittens. I wasn't walking around with no gloves. I wasn't holding a metal water bottle with no gloves in my hands. At no point throughout that day or any time before this had I felt my hands particularly cold or any warning signs of frostbite. And yet, during this hour, 2 fingers, my right ring finger and my left middle finger, felt hard. It wasn't just cold, it was hard. Something was clearly wrong. I was debating whether to just ride it out. We had about an hour and a half more left in the day where we were going to stop and then set up camp. So should I just keep going? I didn't want to burden the team. But as I kept skiing, I knew this was not good. This was not just normal cold, which we all feel from time to time when you're in Antarctica. So I stopped the team, we took a quick look at the fingers, and they were badly swollen. Immediately, I knew this was not good. We stopped. My team set up a tent as quickly as possible, got me inside to get me warm. Once they set up the rest of the camp, they came in, we took a look at the fingers, and it was bad. And what devastated me was I didn't do anything wrong. The trip leader, the other people on the team, they themselves said you weren't doing anything reckless or stupid. This was not my first cold weather expedition. I'd been on plenty of expeditions before. I'd been in these kind of temperatures before. I was walking around with my gloves, not doing anything stupid, and yet here we were. My team looked out for me. They took care of me. They helped doing everything in the camp because my fingers were swollen really, really badly. They bandaged the fingers, and we waited to see what would happen over the next 24 hours.
The frostbite keeps getting worse, especially the right ring and left middle fingers. They swelled up, and the swelling extended from the tips further down the finger. The color changed from pink to white. The flesh was numb and hard to the touch, like a frozen chicken breast that hasn't fully thawed. The team got me into a tent right away. My responsibilities were divvied up among them, and they helped get food into me. My tent mate even built me a shield so I could relieve myself without getting battered by the wind, but there was very little they could do to mitigate what was happening to my hands.
It's getting worse.
I know, but I still think I can push through.
If you don't get treatment, you will lose your fingers.
I've seen people with missing fingers. Strangely, that didn't scare me, except that I knew it would make it impossible for me to go on more expeditions. And more immediately, I don't want to be a burden to my team. Finally, I'm disappointed that this mission is incomplete. I would not make it to the South Pole. Despite all the training, all the prep, despite being the most able-bodied member of the team, I'm the one who has to bail? I'm disappointed, but calm. The rest of the team is looking at me. The two pilots come out a hell of a long way to get me. They land in 30-plus knot winds, then fly me back to Union Glacier. I would have for sure lost more of my fingers if it wasn't for those pilots and the medical team. Everyone is so warm, friendly, and caring. But the frostbite isn't something they can fix. It's going to be a long road back. And even then, there's no guarantees. It's been a few weeks since I left Antarctica. My fingers have turned black. I've been told it gets worse before it gets better. The hope is that with time, the black will work its way down the fingers until it's gone. That's the best case scenario. At the moment, it doesn't look promising, but what are you going to do? Even though I was away for just 5 weeks, it was an adjustment to come back to civilization. I met up with my parents back at the family home in Bangalore. There's no better place for me to heal up. Even though it ended this way, I learned so much that'll help me when I go back for the crossing.
I was afraid you'd say that.
You know how much it means to me.
But things have changed. Now that this happened,
Nothing's changed, except I have a better idea of what I'll be facing.
what about your fingers?
The doctor's pretty optimistic they'll heal if I do the daily treatments, which I will.
Won't you be more susceptible to frostbite the next time?
But I'll be better prepared.
You know, I would greatly prefer that you stop putting yourself in danger. But I'll admit one thing, Akshay. I've learned from you. I've read the words of many gurus, but you are living those words. I'm proud of you. And you make me crazy, but you also show me the way. And that is you paying me back for your nightmare childhood.
Once I got back from Antarctica, I went and spent months with my family in India, who helped take care of me while I was healing from the frostbite. It was wild to witness this taking place on my own fingers. The fingers were black, more than halfway down the entire finger, and I was watching it slowly peel off, almost like a snake shedding its skin. And as the black part started peeling off and it would get further and further up my finger, it would start to crack off in big chunks. It was beyond surreal to experience this. My middle left finger, ultimately it recovered completely. I didn't lose any length on that finger. Just a very, very tiny black piece fell off from the tip, but it looked as normal as the rest of my fingers. But the right ring finger, that one was bad. Just above the top line of that finger, it was black and there was no way it was going to recover. I reached out to the doctors that I had been working with since my frostbite, and they said it was about time to have it surgically removed. So after about 7 months since I got frostbite in Antarctica, I had to have the tip of that finger cut off. After that, my entire world became getting ready to go back to Antarctica for 110 days of complete solitude. So I decided to go back into the darkness. The last time I went in with an eye to heal the past. This time I was going in with an eye to the future. I wanted to master that relationship with myself, master solitude, and go deeper within to see what else I would find.
During my 10 days in the dark, I kept a journal, just like the last time. It's not easy writing in the pitch black. You have to write large. I went through a lot of pages. Reading through them later, I found a passage that sums up my life's purpose. It starts with my tombstone. I wanted to read, "He brought light into darkness." Now I know why. All the struggle, all the suffering, all the pain, all the darkness you seek out, those are the battlefields where you develop the strength and learn the path from the darkness to the light. Your wars give you the wisdom. Without that wisdom, you cannot serve. By exploring the darkness, you are creating the roadmap to show others how to get out of it. You cannot create the map unless you know the roads. The stories you tell, the lessons you teach, bring light into those souls who struggle in the dark.
As part of my continued training for the 110-day crossing of Antarctica, I recently spent 2 months up in northern Norway, north of the Arctic Circle. I got to spend 29 days out in the field, 19 of which I was completely alone. And for the first time, I got to be in a polar storm alone. And I loved it. I thrived. But a new problem presented itself while I was out in the Arctic. My one finger, the middle finger on my left hand, that had recovered fully from frostbite, it continued to give me problems in the cold. When I was out in the Arctic in Svalbard, it got to minus 37 degrees, and this was giving me noticeable problems because once you have frostbite, for the rest of your life, that finger will always be more prone to frostbite. And I knew this, but I had to put this to the test. Having endured what I endured in Antarctica, I was doing everything to be even more careful out there in the Arctic than when I was out in the Antarctic. And so I was ready, I was safe, I had my mittens, everything was fine, but there were days when I was out there where all my fingers were fine except the middle finger on my left hand, the tip of it, which was still cold, and that presented a huge problem for me. I could not afford to have this liability on a 110-day journey across Antarctica. Not only because the finger could get frostbite, but I didn't want that mental energy draining me. I imagined myself being 60 days out in Antarctica, I'm hitting the distance I need to hit, and if that finger gets frostbite and I lose the expedition, I would be devastated. So while I was in the Arctic, I made the decision to prophylactically have the tip of that finger removed. After I came back from expedition, I went to India, and despite battling 3 doctors who did not want to cut off a good finger, they all said it was against the ethics. They did not recommend this process. But I pleaded my case, and what finally tipped the scales in my favor was my mom's support. My mom told the doctor that I need you to cut my son's finger off. And she knew how important this was for me, and she supported me through it. And that convinced the doctor that he needed to do it, because what kind of mom would say, cut off my son's finger unless there was a really compelling reason to do so? So we removed that finger, and it just got me one step closer to Antarctica. And that's the essence of Fearvana. to do whatever it takes, no matter how hard, no matter how painful. And once the anesthesia wore off on that finger, it hurt a ton. But that's what needed to be done. And now as I get closer and closer to this daunting journey, I'm terrified. I could not be more scared of what awaits me out there. But in life, you have to battle the dragon to find the treasure. And so as scary as it is, as much as I know I'm going to suffer, the rewards that lie waiting for me out there, they are more than worth it. Losing a finger is a very, very, very small price to pay for what awaits me out there. And that's what I want to leave you with. What rewards lie waiting for you on the other side of your fears? So as we end this series, I will leave you with 2 final thoughts. The first from polar explorer Ernest Shackleton. To be brave cheerily, to be patient with the glad heart, to stand the agonies of thirst with laughter and song, to walk beside death for months and never be sad. That's the spirit that makes courage worth having. And one final thought from me, or maybe you can consider it advice. Never stop chasing fear, or you will spend your whole life running from it.
Fearvana is a production of Voyage Media. The series is produced by Nat Mundell, Asif Manvi, Robert Midas, Adam Prince, and Dave Bettamore. Executive produced by Akshay Nanavati. Written and directed by Adam Prince, based on Akshay Nanavati's novel of the same name. The novel is available on Amazon. A link is in the show notes. Starring Asif Manvi as Akshay. Additional cast credits available in the show notes. Edited, sound designed, and mixed by Joel Libman. Original music by Derlis Gonzalez. If you're enjoying the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or anywhere you're listening, and subscribe now for future episodes.